Steph Vassell had 26 points in his first start since February the 3rd, but the Charlotte Hornets hit an NBA record-tying 18 first-half threes and are out to 26 on the night. They beat the Spurs 145-134 on this military appreciation night. As we continue, Spurs Live following the game, Dan Weiss, Madison Hawk back here at our Spurs Live desk. And Madison, one of my favorite sayings is that it's a make or miss league, and on many nights at the end of the game, you take a look at the box score, and usually who hits the most threes ends up coming with the W, and that's pretty much was the case tonight with the Hornets.
Yeah, it absolutely was, and it's hard to dig yourself out of a hole when you allow a team in the first half to shoot nearly 70% from behind the arc. But in this game, everything was working well for Charlotte offensively. You take a look at their assist numbers. 42 assists on 51 made field goals. I mean, that's almost unheard of. So you have to give credit where credit is due. A great night for Charlotte offensively.
On the flip side, as we send it back to Jacob Toby and Sean Elliott, Steph Vassell, 26 points tonight, and he's going to have a nice chance here down the stretch to really put a firm grip on that Rookie of the Year candidacy, guys.
Well, yeah, Dan, we saw him get his 30th career start in place of De'Aaron Fox. Him and Vassell were great tonight. I'm a glass half full kind of guy, right?
Yeah,
or
yes.
empty, how do I say that?
You're right.
Glass half full.
You got it.
I'm going to look at the positive here, and they got two 20-point scorers tonight.
Yeah, and, Devin Vassell only got 16 shots. I thought he should have gotten more attempts. The way he was shooting the ball early, he was just in a nice groove, nice rhythm. I think Charlotte maybe forced the ball out of his hands a few times once he got it going, but really on point offensively. And Steph Vassell, same thing. I mean, he shot a nice percentage as well. Probably should have gotten more looks. Had a little tough stretch there in the third quarter. He returned the ball over in the backcourt a couple of times. I'm sure Mitch Johnson talked to him. He came back nicely there the end of the second half. Another overall great performance from the rookie.
All right, so second out of a back-to-back tomorrow night against the Pelicans, who beat the Spurs twice in New Orleans.
Yeah.
Got to get it back, right?
Well,
Come on.
You got that second and third unit. They got a little bit of a warm-up, so they should be ready to go. It should be all hands on deck. And, yeah, somehow you got to get control of Zion Williamson because he was a handful for us, both those games in New Orleans. Same thing with Trey Murphy. They've got some solid players over there. Again, I said it before those two games in New Orleans. They're a better team than what their record would indicate. If Zion Williamson is healthy the whole year, they're much higher up the standings.
No Fox for the rest of the year. Minutes to be had on the floor, and we saw a guy like Blake Wesley play really, really well tonight in the minutes that he got.
He plays hard every single time he's out there, so you have to appreciate what he's doing out there. And I love the fact that 2 times we saw tonight, he takes on the big guy in the paint, and he wins the battle, goes down the opposite end, gets a dunk one time, gets a three-pointer another time. He's just been playing really good basketball, controlled basketball in the second half of the season.
All right, let's do it again tomorrow night.
I'm ready. Let's just stay here.
You really?
Just need a pillow.
The cot? You can just lay these seats down?
Something hot to eat.
You have no other choice. I mean, you got to come back, right? I mean, you have choices. The rest of us don't. We all have to be back. You
totally
have choices.
Dan, you look like you sleep in the studio.
Yeah, this is true. There's a lot of studios that I sleep in over the years. No question about it. All right, guys, see you tomorrow night. Pelicans in town, and we'll do it again tomorrow. We'll all be back. And maybe Sean will be back, too.
I am going to go to bed and get a good night's sleep. I'm not going to sleep here, but I'm happy to be back for the Pelicans and Spurs. I agree with Sean and Jacob. A little redemption maybe for the Spurs trying to get a win over the Pelicans.
Yeah, especially after the 2 losses in New Orleans. And talk more about that just a little bit here. Spurs fall tonight, 145-134. Keldon Johnson, 2 of his 12 on the evening. More Spurs Live, and we continue after this. As the Spurs fall 145-134. Charlotte shooting was the name of the game here tonight, 60%, and they knocked down a franchise record 26 3-pointers.
Yeah, and the crazy thing is San Antonio didn't shoot bad from behind the arc at all. They shot almost 46% from 3, but you take a look at Charlotte. I mentioned it earlier, the assist, 42 assists on 51 made field goal. Yes, that helps whenever you're shooting nearly 70% from 3. Charlotte ended the night shooting nearly 60% from 3, but they were on fire in an offensive rhythm throughout the entire night. You take a look at the bench points, though. You got to give a shout out to the Spurs. We heard Sean and Jacob giving some love to the bench as well, outscoring Charlotte's bench. So they were big down the stretch of this game.
Especially that third unit, guys like Wesley, Jordan McLaughlin, Malachi Brandon, who were playing hard down the stretch and almost got into a single-digit game there in the closing seconds of that one. But in the end, the Spurs fall as the Hornets/Bobcats franchise. That's the second most points in their history, 145 here tonight. As the Spurs fall 145-134. We'll take a break. We'll wrap up Spurs Live on the other side. Talking about Blake Wesley. Here's 2 of his 10 going up top. We'll wrap it up on the other side here on FanDuel Sports Network.
Obviously, Charlotte made a ton of threes tonight. Is that something you look at and say your team could have guarded that better, or do you just tip your hat to the Hornets and say they had a great night?
I mean, you tip your cap in terms of just they were prepared, they executed, and they played a very clean game. So you obviously tip your cap, but very disappointed on a few different levels. And I think just when you zoom out and say 81 points in 2 quarters and 5 fouls committed by us in those 2 quarters, there's some level of resistance or lack thereof, whether that, physicality, connectedness, but the fact that they got that many shots off clean and there was 5 fouls means that we could have done better.
That's a situation where you'd almost want to see more fouls because it tells you you're...
Yeah, I mean, at some point you just, if you can't stop them schematically, individually, collectively, whatever we or I put out there as a game plan, we just need more resistance. If you played a pickup game, that would still be disappointing with no game plan. And that's on us.
How did you think Steph kind of adjusted to back in the starting lineup and fitting in with that group a little bit more?
Yeah, I think he's done it quite a bit. I don't think it's something that is overwhelming or anything to him. I think, again, when you start the game and play with those guys, there's probably a different level of the game flow at the start of the game than when you come in later. But, again, he's done it, so I think he'll continue to adjust and get back into the rhythm and roll with that.
How'd you like how some of those guys that finished the game played for you?
I thought they finished the game great. I mean, again, 24-point quarter versus 40, 44, and 37 is pretty indicative. And, this league is too good to think that you're going to be able to turn that on or flip a switch. And we tried a couple of times throughout the game. We tried to make a run. We were fighting. You could see the effort and the competitiveness lift a little bit. And that's not how this works. And next thing you know, ball gets kicked that way, slips through your hands that way. You had a steal, but, oh, no, they got it back. They make a 3. You don't get rewarded for sometimes type of effort or competitiveness or intensity or execution. And I think we were a victim of that at times tonight when we tried, but we weren't consistent.
Some analysis from Mitch Johnson after this game here tonight. Things I think the Spurs will focus on as they prepare for tomorrow night, Madison.
Yeah, something that stood out to me was Mitch Johnson just saying that they need more resistance, and the Spurs are going to have to find that resistance tomorrow against Zion Williamson, a player that whenever he is healthy, we know what he is capable of doing. So the Spurs trying to get back in the win column and containing Zion Williamson, CJ McCollum, and the rest of the Pelicans.
Pelicans swept a pair from the Spurs back at the end of February in New Orleans. They're 6-6. In the last 12 games that Zion's been available. So playing good basketball, that'll be over on Ken's 5, 7:30 tip time. And we'll get you started at 7 o'clock. Madison will be back. Nate Ryan will join us as well. Whole gang's here. Maybe Sean too. We'll have to wait and see if he sleeps at the arena.
Yeah, I love it. I'm not sleeping. I'm going home.
We're all going home right now. Absolutely. We'll be right back here in less than 12 hours, or 24 hours, we should say. Less than 12 would be a little bit pressing. Spurs fall tonight, 145, 134, 26 for Steph Castle, 22 for Devin Vassell. The Hornets went nuts from beyond the arc tonight and are out to a franchise record 26 three-pointers. They beat the Spurs 145-134. For Madison Hawk, Jacob Toby, Sean Elliott, our entire crew, I'm Dan Weiss saying so long. We'll talk to you tomorrow night on Ken's 5. Have a great night, everybody.